Today we're going to focus on Common Core State Standard RI 7.6, determine an author's point of view or purpose in a text, and analyze how the author distinguishes his or her position from that of others. We're going to focus on point of view and purpose today. Before we read the articles, I want you to consider two quotes and keep them in mind this week. In order to have compassion for others, we have to have compassion for ourselves and learn to be open-minded and respectful to people's opinions, even when you don't agree. So even if you don't agree with some of the things this week, I still want you to remain open-minded and respectful to how other people feel. Let's first define point of view. Point of view is the things about the author that help us understand the author's purpose. And the purpose is the reason behind why an author is writing a piece. First, I'd like you to choose your highlighter color. You're going to highlight all point of view and purpose ideas in one color. So have that color ready. This is the first article we're going to read together. To Rural America, Trump is a voice against the everyday political garbage, by Gretchen Reiter. It was found in Refinery 29. Gretchen Reiter is a political messaging and communications strategist and Beltway insider living in Texas. As I read, I would like you to highlight as well. And I would like us to consider point of view and purpose today. No matter what part of the country you live in, this was an ugly election. I live in rural America, the heart of Trump country, but spent over 10 years in Washington and still work in politics today. Right off the bat, I know where she lives and I know where she has spent a lot of time working, which tells me a lot about her point of view. Throughout the election cycle, I saw my friends and family reduced to a label, uneducated white people. It's that label and the condescending beliefs of many that have fueled support for President-elect Donald Trump. As a school teacher for my hometown of Chattanooga, Oklahoma, I said, I hope if we elect a regular citizen, even a billionaire one, we may finally have a voice against crazy, everyday political garbage. The media and many liberal Democrats paint with a broad brush the voters who supported Trump. In addition to uneducated, they call them names like rednecks, hypocrites, and Bible thumpers. All of these words define and tell us a little bit about the point of view that she's coming from. For me, the last straw was when I heard the New York Times columnist David Brooks say on PBS NewsHour the Friday before the election that voters are supporting Trump because of their gene pool. It was insulting and ignorant. This tells us how she feels and her point of view of how people are calling her and how that makes her feel. I tossed and turned for nights after Brooks' comment. He was talking about my people. And it's not just Brooks, but also some people I know and worked with in D.C. I've heard it for years that we are small-minded and focused on small, irrelevant issues like the weather, which our livelihoods depend on, and daily family responsibilities. That demeaning sentiment hit fever pitch over the past few months, and it continues now that Trump has won. How disconnected have we become that our first explanation of this election is to insult and belittle half our population? To dismiss them is missing the point. No matter what happened election night, somebody was going to lose, and half of the country was going to wake up feeling as if their world was upended and their voices silenced. However, we feel, though, we all must deal with our emotions and move forward. We must overcome the deep division in this country by understanding each other's struggles and commonalities. So this tells us a little bit about our purpose. She's telling us what we need to do. We need to understand each other's struggles and our commonalities because we have a really deep division and we need to find a way to come back from that. While the cities and urban areas have progressed, not just in thinking, but also in lifestyle, the individuals in flyover country have been left behind. Many have surely read about the economic struggles of family farms and towns built around manufacturing and coal in the Wall Street Journal. But do you know someone who is experiencing those struggles? No. Well, let me tell you about them. So this part's really important. They are intelligent, hardworking, value-driven people, farmers, ranchers, small businessmen, entrepreneurs, coal miners, and factory workers. They have brains, concerns, struggles, and worries just like city people. They're my people, my family, and we don't just have to share the worry of putting food on the table. We have to worry about putting food on the table for the whole country. We are concerned about healthcare too, not only the cost, but having to drive miles and sometimes hours to get the type of care we need. So this tells us about what kind of people these are. This tells us about her point of view, who she grew up with, where she grew up. We know that she also doesn't have great health care and has to figure things out, and that's really difficult. I challenge you to look at them not as uneducated white people, but as fellow Americans who live in states with some of the worst household incomes and highest unemployment. This again tells us about the experience and the purpose that she's writing. Our country has developed a culture of inclusiveness, political correctness, and tolerance, while at the same time becoming intolerant of Americans who live, think, and speak differently. While we are raising our children to treat everyone equally and be open-minded, why don't we practice what we preach? Think about that while you wait in line at Starbucks. I won't, because the closest Starbucks is 20 miles away. This tells us that she didn't really grow up near a city. Again, a little piece of her point of view. The American people will continuously lose if we allow the ugliness in our political system to endure. We must look in the mirror and examine how our divided cultures led to this political environment. And as a nation, we must face a hard truth. The change needs to start with us. This tells us a little bit about her purpose, what we need to do to end this division. So instead of wondering what is going to happen going forward, we should all ask ourselves what we personally are going to do differently from now on. How can we be the change we as a country claim we want and yearn for? How can we be tolerant of those who see things differently, yet find the common threads that bind us together? If any good can come from this election, it must start with us. So, let's head up to this top part up here and talk about point of view and purpose. So, right off the bat, we learned a few things about her. We know that she grew up in rural America and called that Trump country, right? We also know that she spent 10 years in Washington, D.C. in politics. So we know that she has a little bit of a mixed understanding or a mixed view of the world. She both grew up in a small town, but she also spent time in the city. So she sees both sides of the spectrum. She sees the city people and she sees the rural people. She comes from a family of farmers who work to put food on America's table and their own. She lives far away from a city. And she is insulted by ignorant comments about who she is, who her family is, and who her friends are. Please make sure you write down these notes as well. The next part that we're going to look at is the purpose. So she has a couple of reasons for writing this, and I think that the most important reason is that she wants, so the purpose that reader writes this piece is because she wants people from the city to become more tolerant and understanding of people in rural America. And I think that is her main reason. However, she also wants people from the city to see rural Americans as fellow Americans who also have concerns about healthcare, income, and unemployment, etc. And then finally, she wants Americans to overcome the deep division in our country and come together to understand each other's daily struggles and our commonalities. So she really wants us to see this other side. She wants us to see that although we live in the city, there are still people who live in rural America who have a different experience than we do. And she wants us to be understanding of that different experience. And she also wants us to come together and to mend our deep division in a way to see our daily struggles are the same and see that we have many commonalities and see that we have a lot of the same issues, and to understand that there are two sides to everything and to really understand that other side. So I'm going to go back for a second to this first page and these two quotes. And although some of this might have angered you, I want you to think about this again. So the first thing is, in order to have compassion for others, we have to have compassion for ourselves. So please spread this compassion to these people who we might find as different from us. And also learn to be open-minded and respectful to people's opinions even when you don't agree. So you might not have agreed with some of this, but I really would like you to remain open-minded. Right now, I would like you to go up to the first article, How Do I Comfort My Frightened Son After the Election? I tell him how our people survived. And I'd like you to use the same color highlighter. Again, use the same color highlighter to highlight everything for point of view and purpose and answer these two questions up here. All right, good luck.